Welcome to a Delco Nerd Network Rewind review, a series where we sit down and review our favorite films of the past. On this series, we will be discussing the Indiana Jones franchise, starting with Raiders of the Lost Ark. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Anthony Ragucci, the Gooch himself.
Afternoon, Frauleins.
And new to guest, actually, Pat Donovan. How you doing, man? Thank you for coming on.
I'm good.
That's great to hear, man. Well, we wanted to sit down. I've been wanting to do like these throwback type reviews for a while. We settled on this. I wanted to do Indiana Jones. I love this franchise. I mean, the first one's been put into the like not the Hall of Fame, like the Smithsonian Archive, like is one of like the, because it's pretty
is it? Like,
yeah, it's a very notable
Yeah,
film.
of course.
And it's a great franchise. So we're starting right off with Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was released originally June 12th, 1981. The original box office gross was $389.9 million. Just a little description for those who don't know what Indiana Jones is. I'd be very surprised if no one has any idea. But here we go. In 1936, archaeologist and adventurer Indiana Jones is hired by the U.S. government to find the Ark of the Covenant before the Nazis can obtain its awesome power. Thank you, IMDb, for that description. Directed by Steven Spielberg, written by Lawrence Kasdan as well, like Star Wars fame. I did not realize that he wrote that. I mean, it makes total sense. Story by George Lucas and Philip Kaufman. And yeah, guys, I mean, let's just get right into it. What did you think about this movie just on a rewatch? Like, or just how do you feel? Just first reactions.
How do I feel about Raiders of the Lost? I feel like it's probably the most consistent series of stunts.
Absolutely.
Consistently magnificent series of stunts, pretty much put on film up until that point.
I agree. I mean, it's like that was one of the funnest parts about watching this movie for me. I feel like was the practicality of it, the sets and the stunts, everything. Even when there was sound,
any CGI in that?
No CGI.
I was gonna say, like, I was paying attention. I'm like, this all looks practical, but I could be wrong.
There was one scene that was like, I was like distracted, like the part where they're in what's her name, Marion's bar, and like there's this guy, like I guess he had a squib on his face, like, and they had it put in with prosthetics and makeup. Like, what's going on with that guy's face? And then he gets shot in the head later in the scene. I'm like, oh, that's what it was. Yeah. Why didn't they just film that scene separate with the squib down on his face? But anyways, it still was just the practicality and the real viscerality of the stunts in this movie is one of the things I definitely agree with. It's a great point. Gooch, what did you think of Indiana Jones?
I think this is the second time I fully watched it.
I think it was for me too, like around that.
Like I one thing I like about doing these podcasts is the fact that like with Indiana Jones, I am bottom of the rung. Like I'm not an Indiana Jones fan. Like I like it, don't get me wrong, but I've never seen Temple of Doom or The Last Crusade front to back. I've seen them on TV, so like I know what they're about generally. And I saw Crystal Skull in theaters. That's probably pretty sad.
Same.
I mean, that's just the time period that you came up in.
Yeah, it's true.
True. Yeah. But so it's interesting for me because I'm just kind of like, you know, there is maybe not expectation, but like a bias that this movie's really good. And I watched it and I'm like, I enjoyed it. And I'm like, it is a very simple movie.
Oh, absolutely.
There is not much going on at all.
No.
And I was like, not that makes it bad, but like, and it, like even the plot, like they do the intro scene, you find out about the Ark of the Covenant, they round up the squad, they go get the Ark of the Covenant.
There's no extra meat, which I love, actually. I really like how we are going to find the Ark of the Covenant. We're following this trail, and I love it. Is funny, like seeing all the tropes, I guess, like in real time that this movie has quote unquote created. I guess like the scene like where he's traveling on the plane and it's showing the map behind him, and even the part where he's getting the idol at the beginning of the movie. Like I feel like there's all these scenes that have become so like impactful, and it's really interesting to see them. Like I would have loved to see this movie like in theaters when it first came out. Like I couldn't imagine like what this type of thing was to like people at the time. But yeah, no, I thought that was really, and like all the animal scenes, man, when he turns around, he has all the spiders on his back.
Alfred Molina.
Like, dude, yeah, I meant to say Doc. Literally, I have Doc Ock written there with an exclamation point. I thought that was really funny. But yeah, like, what did you guys think? Like with that whole first first scene of his introduction, I think, is amazing.
I think there are a lot of things to consider. Like one is you get the character Indiana Jones is an imperfect hero. All right. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the origin of the series, but originally, I'm going to try to talk it. Originally, Steven Spielberg had done Jaws, and he'd done Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and he had some significant clout because Jaws is the first summer blockbuster movie in history.
Yep.
Right. Also rated PG. This is also rated PG, and that's a whole nother
Interesting.
We get to go back to.
Interesting.
Yes.
Wow.
Because at the time there was no PG-13 rating. That didn't come about until after Temple of Doom was released, and that's the reason there is PG-13.
How the hell is this movie PG?
I mean, with the face melting it.
It's like it's pretty violent.
But it actually all comes from James Bond. See, the thing is Spielberg wanted to do a James Bond movie, right? But what happened was the producers of James Bond, it's the same producers that have done since the very beginning, since Dr. No.
Sure.
They were adamant about having final cut of the movie. Right now, Spielberg has always demanded final cut for his movies. He's the guy who says yes or no
to whatever's in the movie.
And that's an extremely rare thing in Hollywood.
I was going to say,
very few directors
have that ability,
can command that.
Yeah.
Right.
So the split that they had was right there. And Spielberg then said, all right, well, I'm going to do a movie that is better than James Bond. Ooh. Right? Now, the inspiration came from Lucas, right?
Yeah.
And we know Lucas, obviously Lucas is Star Wars.
Yep.
And before that, American Graffiti.
Absolutely.
Right? And Lucas, his inspiration was serials that he heard on the radio serials. That's the original
I feel like you
idea.
can definitely feel that inspiration.
Yeah, that vibe is totally there.
So that's
the kind of pulpy hero vibe.
Yep. Yeah. And that's where you get. So that's when you get Indiana Jones. And in my opinion, Indiana Jones is he's charismatic. And the opening sequence is all about them introducing the new hero. And that's actually the tagline on the post is the new hero.
That's so cool.
Yeah, which is
interesting.
No, and you know it's funny because it does such a good job of making me give a shit about Indy with giving me next to no information about him. Yeah. It's truly like he's just a badass. Like they don't show his face for the first few scenes,
which I thought was interesting. I mean, so I don't know this. At this point, has Harrison Ford done Blade Runner?
No, Blade Runner's 82.
Okay,
that's Ridley Scott's follow-up.
And he's only
Alien.
done A New Hope at this
point.
No,
Ridley. Ridley Scott. I'm on Blade.
Yeah,
Runner. No,
crossing streams.
Harrison. Yeah, I know. Right? Yeah. Harrison Ford was a carpenter. Okay.
Yeah.
Who got hired on the set of American Graffiti to play a jerk, right? And he plays the part really well.
Yeah.
You know, he's sort of challenged. He's just a jerk.
He's good. Give it away, sure.
But then he wasn't supposed to play Indiana Jones at all, actually. The role was originally written for Tom Selleck, right? But
I do remember hearing that. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And the reason that was
Tom
is because
Selleck.
they'd already used Lucas and Spielberg they'd already used him. Well, I guess Spielberg didn't use him, but Lucas already used him in Star Wars, and he didn't want to
keep
the same actor for a different franchise. But when Selleck backed out, he went straight in. I feel like the charisma that sort of carries over, and that Han Solo charisma,
absolutely,
that devil may care attitude, very much carries into this.
There's something about like Harrison Ford, like I feel like he respects the act of or the craft of acting, but at the same time he's like, who fuck? Like he has this weird like I don't give a fuck attitude, but I feel like it's part of his like
now he does.
Yeah, was he a little bit more? And I think he's kind of earned that ability to because he's so good.
Since we're here, I feel like I need to interject here.
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
In The Last Crusade, who plays Indy's father?
Oh,
Sean Connery.
Yeah, Sean Connery.
Who?
Sean Connery.
Who's that?
Oh,
James Bond.
Yeah, that's so true. I didn't even think about that.
Good point.
That is so good. And he is. It's funny. I feel like that's probably the one of these that I've seen the most whenever it's on TV that I've really kind of almost watched front to back. And again, there are points in these movies where I'm like, I'm watching the piece and I'm like, I need to sit down and watch these movies fully because I feel like I need to really appreciate them. And sitting down and watching this one really kind of, I feel like showed me why it's stood the test of time. Just it's given us so many things. Like one thing I was watching this guy talk about, his name's Phil Mento on YouTube. He does like those video essays. And he was talking about like how good movies set timers to scenes, like to make you feel like, oh shit. And I feel like he does that. Or Spielberg does that a ton in this movie, and just the way of like Andy has a set amount of time, he needs to get his objective completed, or else you're like that plane, or the scene when they're on the plane and he's fighting the big dude, and she's trapped inside, and he's like, if I don't get her done, or I don't get her out of here, we're both gonna go up in fucking flames. And he said it's there's a real tension to this movie that I feel like runs through it that is a lot of fun. I don't know. I really feel like that doesn't happen a lot in major blockbusters anymore. And you know what? He gets hurt.
All the time.
You never see that with action stars today. I feel like he takes a punch.
He gets a shot in the truck, and like they kind of like really not like really call to it, but like.
But he's hurting.
He gets shot and he doesn't instantly just shrug it off. Like he like holds his arm. He's like, ugh.
The other guy is like, using it against him.
And then later, like in the scene where like what Marion and him are like, you know, end up having sex. Like he's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm old, even though I'm not.
Yeah. No, it's he. Like I said, he takes a punch and it's so cool, but he gets back up. Like he's not just this indestructible force. And that's something I think that's missing today, especially.
The sound effects are interesting.
Apparently,
especially for the guns.
I didn't really notice the guns, but I think the punches I read on IMDb, who knows how true it is, they hit a bunch of leather jackets with like a baseball bat or something to make like the whoop.
Yeah, like I was listening, like in Marion's bar when they're having that shootout, I was like, that does not sound like a pistol. I was like, not at least a pistol that I've been in it like any recent action film. Like that sounds really different.
Yeah, no,
and I'm like, I wonder what sound they got for that. Or
they probably just made like weird clapping, whatever. But it's kind of interesting to think about because now today we've grown up with like video games and stuff where we hear guns all the time.
Yeah,
and like now like going back and listening, you're like, well, that doesn't sound right. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm like, I'm not sure if this is good or bad, but I'm like, it just doesn't sound like a pistol to me.
Sure. I really also like Marion's character a lot. I felt like she wasn't just this kind of hapless.
Who is she?
Karen Allen?
Yeah.
Honestly, Karen Allen hasn't really been known for a whole lot other than Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah,
she did come back in 2008, obviously, for I mean, she had a career. She was around, but I don't know what she was doing.
Yeah, it's weird because I think she's really good in this. I like her a lot.
I feel like there's a trope with 80s movies where there are a lot of 80s movies with these people who do that franchise and that's it.
Yeah, it's like kind of one-hit wonders.
They introduce Karen Allen. She's at the bar. She's drinking with all these guys. She drinks a guy under the table. So, I mean, it's the same kind of thing. They instantly give you that there's more to this character than... And not only that, she acts drunk. That's a thing that you see in a lot of movies is people will be drinking or they'll be smoking. Well, they'll be taking... And they just act perfectly
well,
normal.
And it was funny. Yeah, at the beginning of that scene, I'm like, she should be way drunker. But then as she kind of started, I was like, oh, she is drunk. Like she's playing it kind of
playing
it subtly, but like you can tell she's getting drunk on the regular, beating people and these things. But she's still drunk. Like she's still.
But she's also playing them. She's not as drunk as she
exactly.
seems to be. She can
No, it's cool. I think again, she's not like they kind of use her as a bit of a damsel in distress situation, but most of the time she's like getting out of shit on her own, which I thought was cool. Like and that she's also
you're right.
like. She's just a good character and a fun character, and even I didn't believe for a second she was dead at the one point, but I feel like I've seen the end before with her tied up with him, so I kind of subconsciously was like, well, no, she's not dead. There's no way. But yeah, again, like all the locations in this I thought were pretty beautiful too. Just the way like it felt real, like you were actually in the spot.
You know, I'm a big fan of The Mummy and a lot of ancient Egypt, and you know what I don't like think when I think about this film, Egypt, even though it is
all
mostly
Egypt.
Based in Egypt. Is that? Do you feel that way? Like,
to be honest, I don't know. I guess I haven't really thought, but yeah, I guess you're right on the
like the Mummy dips into Egyptian mythology. Raiders of the Lost Ark really doesn't.
No, what Raiders of the Lost Ark is what it does is it's setting the stage. So you've got good versus evil. Okay. All right, this polarizing struggle. Now that's the human element harnessing the power of evil, right? And that's what they're going for. They're actually trying to take the Ark of the Covenant, which is supposed to have the presence of God. It was used, I'm not
sure.
They lay it out.
And they're trying to use that for each. So they're going to try to use what's the most evil thing you can do is to use a holy relic to try to further perpetuate your world domination at the expense of all these other people, right? And they're so I mean I don't know, it's very much. It's very much tied into Christian mythology. But not just Christian mythology. Actually, it's Jewish mythology as well, Old Testament. Spielberg is obviously, Jewish.
One interesting line I thought was when the Nazi commander dude kind of goes like, "Do we need to do this Jewish ritual?" I was like, "That's a very interesting."
And then
line.
he dresses up like an evil pope, right?
Yeah, that was funny.
It's very ceremonial.
Oh my god!
It's like, I was like, I mean, not that I didn't realize, like, you know, they
No, I
talk
get what
about
you're
the
saying, but yeah.
Holocaust,
yeah.
you like the war. I mean, it's very much all tied up into that kind of thing.
And
Definitely.
that's a real thing that the Nazis were looking for. All
Absolutely,
this
they were digging all the time. Yeah.
But you've got Indiana Jones, which is Harrison Ford, which is like a character, is an imperfect character. And we know that. We've got Marion, she's an imperfect character. We've got all these human, and that's Kasdan's writing. He's very good at humanizing people. And you've got these imperfect characters that are trying to do the right thing many times for the wrong reasons, but it's still what it does is it adds levels of depth to the narrative.
Yeah.
And now not only that, it builds stakes for the narrative. We're not talking about Indiana, good guy versus bad guy. We're talking about the soul of the world. I mean, like,
this is the end if this happens. Yeah.
Epic than. And I just want to say that there is no CG. The first CG that Steven Spielberg used in a film was in 1993, and that was Jurassic Park.
Oh wow!
Okay? Before that, now they had practical effects. They had green screen effects. They had, I mean, this is very much an industrial light and magic movie, right? So the effects that there are many there are matte paintings.
Yeah.
There's studio sequences. There's the famous when he drops down in front of the Cobra. You can see the glass in front of the Cobra. I mean. So what they were doing on celluloid at the time was something that no one else had ever done up until that point.
That's interesting.
That was the thing that made Jaws, right? Star Wars. I mean, these things are all even the Godfather's where it all starts, because the Godfather's Francis Coppola. Francis Coppola is the guy who produced American Graffiti.
Wow.
Right. So Godfather's a success. American Graffiti gets nominated for Oscars. Right, Jaws comes out, gets nominated for Oscars, and these guys are New York film school buddies. Scorsese was one of them. John Milius, who directed Conan the Barbarian. All of those guys, they're all friends.
Wow,
and
that's really interesting.
Absolutely.
I would have known that. Yeah,
all that, that's why they were called that. I don't remember what they were called, but it was a new wave of Hollywood, and those guys were not studio people. Mm-hmm. They infiltrated the studio, and then they changed the world.
Yeah.
No, I mean, so obviously, what was the first blockbuster again? It was Jaws. That
Jaws
was like considered. So that was like
$200 million, and nobody ever thought a summer movie could make
do that. Yeah.
that kind of money.
So they invented that term when Jaws.
That was that. Yeah. Yep. That set up.
That was the summer movie.
Who thought of that term?
I don't know where it came out of. Probably some.
I think it was just a summer movie. They released it in the summer, and it just played. And the thing to consider is if Jaws makes $200 million, okay, the average ticket price in the United States in 1975 was, I don't know,
like
maybe
$1?
75 cents.
Yeah. Oh my God! I didn't even think about that.
Number of tickets,
people were seeing that multiple times.
Yeah, they beat their chest and they tell you that they made $200 million domestically in 2020, and I'm just really not that impressed because
we know
of
how
course,
many tickets did you sell?
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that is insane. I didn't even think about that. And then like 200. The one thing I was trying to figure out was if this number I had for its like box office was adjusted for inflation, and I couldn't really.
What is the number?
The number was 389.9 million.
I don't know. If it's not, that's still a I mean, at the
no,
time,
especially
that's
for the
colossal.
time. Yeah, no, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's to this
And
day.
again,
If you make $400 million.
No, and that's
right.
And honestly, I don't think that's adjusted for inflation because I feel like that wouldn't make.
It wasn't. It wasn't that. It wasn't that long ago. I feel like that would be totally necessary.
Yeah, no, well, because
maybe I don't know.
That 75 cents was probably worth what we have today for maybe, I don't know, $1 or $2 at least. So you'd have to double each. Anyways, bar all that. No, that is very interesting, and it's crazy to think that this was kind of along that line of these movies that really set. I feel like films in the zeitgeist of America with these blockbusters, like you're saying, like people going to the movies multiple times to see things, and we have these action heroes. I mean, this was after obviously Star Wars. It's so cool to kind of go back and just see where it all kind of started, and I feel like this is definitely a building block of it. Indiana Jones can't go wrong, and Harrison Ford. It's weird because now they're doing an Indiana Jones video game, and I'm like, what do you?
Movie.
And I'm like, what do you do? Do you? Like, because I feel like the character of Indiana Jones is like, I feel like you can't obviously have like that's his face. Like I don't know if they can ever like
there was young Indiana Jones and
I guess you're right.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. well, I'm sorry. Last
Crusade.
Crusade. The opening sequence was River Phoenix, and River Phoenix had.
Oh, that was River Phoenix? I didn't know
he
that.
had the
Oh, wow.
charisma. You can't. He nailed it.
No, he was good. I really love that scene. That's like, and then he goes, yeah.
I think it's all a question of look. My answer is don't do it. But if they're gonna do it anyway, because Crystal Skull made like $828 million.
Well, I know for the movie, yeah, that's insane. I mean, the movie there, he is coming back. Harrison Ford, of course.
he is.
So,
For
like, I'm just
what
more.
else is he doing?
I'm curious to see. It's true.
Everything is already done.
Yeah, that's true. I
You
mean,
know.
he just did that. Did you see that freaking dog movie he was in? Like,
I
with
did.
the-
I did. Call the Wild.
Was it
Was
good?
it good?
Was it any good?
I mean, it's the. No,
No.
not really.
But he did it for the
It is
paycheck.
funny
I
seeing.
mean, whatever.
No,
Like, it's
exactly.
not-
No,
I'm
I don't
not-
mean
I'm
that.
not- Am I the demographic for calling?
Absolutely. No,
no,
exactly.
no.
That's true.
Right.
That's
No,
very
no.
true. Hey,
But-
probably. No, that's so true.
Was it silly and ponderous and confused? Yeah, I don't know.
But
why.
I appreciate that he will do those things of like.
Was that
like,
in theaters or was that Disney
I
Plus?
think I was just Disney Plus.
I
might
saw
be
it in
wrong.
theaters.
Oh,
okay.
then it must have been both. Oh. Who
Yeah.
would have known?
Tail end.
I thought the monkey Nazi salute was really funny. I don't know.
Did
that
it
just-
Nazi
He
salute?
didn't notice that they were like hi, hi, and then he goes, and then he goes, I shouldn't, don't do that in public. But
I mean, it's a bad monkey.
yeah, it's a bad monkey.
And not only that,
I
the
don't
monkey,
think I noticed.
The monkey.
You didn't notice that?
No.
Bad dates.
Bad dates. So what was? Yeah, I was confused in that scene. Were they trying to kill Indy?
Yep,
Or-
absolutely.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
But
poisoned
like,
the
who
dates.
was trying to kill him?
the guy who owned
was.
the monkey came in and he had the little.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
I
guy
didn't
who
notice
pours
that
it on
part.
the dates,
Okay, I didn't.
and
I
then
must.
he walks away.
I totally missed that.
Yeah, so he puts poison.
I must have
on
been looking at my
dates.
phone or something.
Are we going to talk about John Rhys Davis? You guys-
So I did not know he was in this movie. Do you know who this is?
No, I'm confused.
It's Gimli.
Oh,
You
where
didn't
is he?
recognize that voice?
Gimli, the son of
Which
Loin
one? Where is he?
And Treebeard.
Yeah, no, I know. Where is he at?
Quote: Bad.
He's the-
dates.
Oh, that was him.
Yeah.
Sala? Is that his
Sala.
name? Yeah.
That that's Gimli.
Yeah.
Sure is.
The voice.
I
was
really
like,
liked him.
I was like, this
That's
voice.
funny.
I'm
I
like,
did
where
not
do I know
notice
this?
it.
Think about how big he is.
No, that's what I was.
Right? Like,
That's
So how the hell do they do Gimli?
oh, they just shot him from like the chest. It was all aspect shots. Yeah.
Very creatively. Very
'cause I was thinking,
carefully.
I was
I
like,
mean, all the
you know,
people
I-
in the new Hobbit were regular sized.
Right, but like, isn't it easier when they're all the same size?
No, that's true because there's nothing to compare. That's fair.
Like when you have Orlando Bloom and next.
No, I think it's literally like he probably would have gotten on his knees or something, and then they shoot it from like a down angle to like
that's
make it
funny.
appear as if
that's
he's short.
hilarious.
Yeah.
But I think it's also worth noting that this is the impact that this movie had itself. Like we literally don't have John Rhys Davis having the exposure he did
No,
in
it's
order
true.
to
It doesn't
be
lead to-
in the movie
I was gonna-
Fellowship of the Ring at the time.
true.
Is he besides Gimli and this role? Is he prolific anyway?
He was in a popular TV show called Sliders with Jerry O'Connell. I mean, that was basically it. He had a niche in the sci-fi realm as a result of his role in Raiders of the Lost Ark. So, but
That's cool. No, yeah, who knows where we'd be
talking
if he
about-
didn't get this.
40 years ago is Raiders of the Lost Ark. 20 years ago is Fellowship of the Ring.
I love it.
Interesting.
That's crazy.
Yeah, again, it's kind of funny. Like all these actors are like they do these like notable roles and like they're. I mean,
They're right. No,
John
and
Rhys
that, well, but
Davis
like he's
would-
like
is not a name. If
Well,
you
it's
just
funny,
said to
that's-
me, I wouldn't know.
I agree. But like it's funny though that they still do proliferate throughout it or throughout.
And then there's
like,
Alfred
movies and
Molina at the beginning.
Yeah, that was
he
just
must
still-
have been what, his 20s?
stuff. Easy.
Give me the idol.
Give me the idol. There's no
Yeah.
time
Give me
to
the
argue.
whip. Give me the.
Yeah,
That's
he
it.
It's so
he
good.
says a few other things and then he's done.
But that's also great casting. Like
No, it is.
Spielberg saw I don't know where he saw him, but,
But he
he
just
saw him
got-
in
yeah.
something. And
Is
he
that
said,
his
"I
his
want-"
first role that you know of or no?
that I know of? I mean, I'm sure
Yeah,
he
I'm
was
sure
around. I'm
he-
sure he was around, but
Right.
Yeah, no, that's
First
probably one of his
notable
most yeah.
movie notable role.
And I feel like he was a pretty big like character actor type person, right? I feel like I always hear that
he's
with him.
been in so much. I mean,
Yeah.
he was in Freed. He was nominated. He is a huge crossover.
No,
career,
he is,
Not
and I
only
mean, now-
mainstream but independent movies.
Supposedly he's going to be back for the new Spider-Man too, so he's around. It's crazy stuff.
supposedly.
Yeah,
There's a lot of supposedly with that
Well,
movie.
no, I mean that one seems to be very much. Anyway, I don't want to, look
Let's
up
talk
things.
about
if you-
Spider-Man.
Yeah, let's talk Spider-Man.
Let's shift gears.
But I'm trying to think if I missed. There was one scene. Again, these are like little things I just find funny. Like looking back, I'm like, man, they really needed Nazi flag bearers really badly, didn't they? They had them everywhere. Like guys, like we're all Nazi.
I mean,
no,
that's-
it's
that's-
just more of a joke. I think it was just more funny.
Right, but they're probably more true to it than any movie would be today.
Well, see,
where,
I'm actually-
like,
that
the
makes me
swastika
curious.
definitely like think about it in like Wolfenstein, the new ones.
Yeah.
There's no swastikas in those games. Like they've really like
Really?
they just taken the imagery away because it's offensive. But like,
But
it
then
is true
I feel like I
to
was
the
watching.
Nazis, so-
Meredith was just playing the new one. They were like everywhere in it.
Really?
Yeah.
The
I don't think so.
The thing about the imagery is to consider in any kind of visual storytelling, specifically in film, you're going to be the rule of thumb is show don't
Absolutely.
tell.
Yeah.
Show don't tell. Right? When pure cinema is defined as a sequence of events where you can empathize with the character and follow what's going on without words being used.
Absolutely.
Right? So when you're talking about Indiana, you're talking about the use of light and shadow in order to tell a story.
And that's one thing I do think this movie it shows. It doesn't tell. Like,
Craft.
there's not a ton of like exposition just drenched out of someone's mouth.
Let me tell you about this mystical stuff.
Even like the stuff
on.
like the relationship between him and Marion, I feel like it's very much they're like, all right, well, like I'm getting this sense that you knew each other, you kind of grew up with each other, you had a fling. That's all I need to know. Okay, cool. Like, and they didn't even have to tell me a lot.
he was his mentor's daughter.
Like they didn't have to give me this whole backstory of her going off on this big long tangent.
or
They
like
just
a flashback of it. Like
it was just.
Which
I knew in 5 minutes.
if
that
that
was their
movie
relationship.
if this movie was made today, you would probably have gotten a flashback at the beginning. Or
something like that. I feel like
Right.
Yeah, because the thing is, they had chemistry, natural chemistry.
Absolutely.
When they had to look, I mean,
You were like,
you can
oh, you
tell that these people are into each other.
Yeah, and you can
know?
tell there was a history. They knew each other. They know. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely
And
right.
that's a hallmark of good actors
Absolutely.
working with a good screenplay and a good story, being directed by someone that they trust.
Yeah, and who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so too. It's really good. And I guess let's talk about the ending now.
You're talking about genre bending, is what you're talking about.
No, it's true, and
'Cause it's
especially back at the time, I can imagine
horror?
how crazy it is. Yeah,
This is a PG movie.
Yeah,
it still
horror
does blow my mind.
And,
now that you said
and
that.
comedy.
Right.
I mean, there's
that scene
there's
at the
outright
end,
funny
like
sequences.
yeah,
when he melts his
Pat
face
has a
off.
really good point. Like that scene is fucking. If I had no idea that was coming, I'd be like, holy
Oh my God.
shit!
And the way even like with the guy when the lightning like goes through them and then they just like their eyes glow and they just kind of pop. It's like, oh my God, you're right. It is like it's funny to think about.
Yep.
That it's
yeah,
a PG
because
movie.
at this point, like that scene is iconic as it is. So,
Absolutely.
like you
parody
know.
to know. Again, it is like I said. It's funny. It's always funny
Head
to me when I
literally
see
explodes.
the parodies before I see the actual movie. I mean, I knew that was from Raiders, but like so many scenes, I'm like, oh, that's where this is from. Oh, that's where this. Like, it's just cool to see.
Or like the Family Guy jokes.
Yeah, exactly. Like just references
There's
and like
so
just,
many Family Guy jokes for Indiana
So
Jones. Like
many.
when I'm watching those scenes, like I
Yeah,
just
it's like
remember
and
them.
it's funny because it's not like that doesn't take away from it for me or anything like that.
Right,
It's just
it-
more funny.
It
to
shows
see
how
impactful
how this movie has transcended pop culture. in a way.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's really cool stuff. But I think anything else to say on the movie itself, guys?
You're gonna hit us with some trivia.
I
now.
think so. Yeah. I
Unless
was looking
Pat,
at some.
did you have something or no?
I just want to say that I wasn't allowed to watch at the end of that. I wasn't
You
allowed
really?
to. No, when I was a little kid, my mom thought she had seen it in the theater, and she said, "No, this isn't for you." So
How old were you?
I was probably 5, 6, 7 years old. So it wasn't until I was 8 or 9, and then I actually saw the third one first. I saw Last Crusade first, and then I guess I saw the second one, and I'll just the point is Spielberg at the time was known for terrifying audio. I mean these are gruesome sequences.
Yeah, this is the '80s too.
In
Nobody cared.
I mean, people definitely weren't as sensitive about things back then.
As they are now.
So, but I don't know. I think it's a magnificent movie. I think it's benchmark in '81. It's benchmark for what can be done, and the highest quality of craft for cinema at the time. And that's when we talk about, and that's, we're not going to go into the Spielberg debate about what is cinema when he talks about the Marvel movies, but that's where he's going with that, is the level of
wasn't
craft,
that
a level of
Scorsese?
You're probably right.
Yeah, I think
it
it
was
was
Scorsese.
Scorsese. So, yeah.
But
No,
the
but
point
still,
is,
yeah,
still stands.
but it's also the same camp of guys, Scorsese and Spielberg
Sure.
and Milius and also those guys were influenced by Kurosawa. But anyway, it's awesome and I love it, and that's all I have to say.
No, it really is, and I like watching it this time has made me grow like a really major appreciation of this movie, and I'm excited to go through the franchise. I'm not very excited to end it.
Dude, I'm the hypest for Crystal Skull.
Really?
I
You're
love Shia
right.
LaBeouf in that movie. I don't care what anyone says.
I remember I saw it on, and it's like again when I'm talking about that. I
got
guess
some
we'll get
funny
into it
scenes.
later, but like the impracticality of that movie, I guess like looking back is the thing I
Yeah.
don't love the most about it. Like
Like,
especially the
him
scene where
swinging with
they're-
the monkeys.
yeah, but then they're like that. There's the scene where they're on the Humvee, and it's like it's just it's all like really. it just doesn't look real. Like it looks like a fake world.
I'm excited to rewatch it.
I am too.
haven't
I'm
seen
curious,
it.
especially after
since I saw it.
rewatching these ones, just to see kind of really how it stands for
Yeah.
me. I'm trying to find some good trivia, but there's so many weird things on here. Of like, all right, so Indiana Jones kangaroo hide bullwhip was sold. Oh, his hide bullwhip was sold in December of 1999 at Christie's auction house in London for how much do you guys think? I'm just curious.
$2 million.
I would say $125,000.
You're closer, $43,000. But you got to remember, that's in 1999.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
like,
true. Today it probably sold for $2 million.
No, probably yeah. I'd be curious.
I was
what
thinking
that
in today's
would.
standards, like, what would it be worth?
Okay, so the opening sequence featured live tarantulas on Alfred Molina, but they did not move until a female. Oh, they would not move until a female tarantula was introduced. That's weird. So they were just.
They put at. Oh my god.
I mean, they were. I mean,
Oh
I
my
thought.
God.
Yeah, I was like, they're definitely real. Like when he
I
was
didn't.
like,
I didn't think that at all.
No, they,
oh my
like-
god, I'd be shitting.
dude,
my
I literally
pants.
was sitting there in a scene like, no, I don't like that
Like,
at all.
Not that I hate spiders, but like,
I hate
once
spiders.
you get to that size, I'm out.
Oh wow, so this was Alfred Molina's first credited role on screen.
That's cool.
His first scene on his first days of filming involved being covered in tarantulas. It was that first.
I mean,
great
I
start.
assume that was like
It's
what?
a good introduction.
No, it
It's-
is.
It only goes. It's only uphill from there.
Yeah, that's so. Oh, God, he must have wanted that job pretty bad.
It
They're like,
only
well,
get better.
no, it's so true.
It was worth it. Clearly.
I'm curious. I guess this might be real. Harrison Ford apparently actually outran the boulder in the opening sequence because this scene was shot twice from 5 different angles. He had to outrun it 10 times. Ford's stumble in the scene was deemed to look authentic and was left in. I mean, that couldn't have been like a very heavy. It probably was like just like a styrofoam boulder or something, right? Like I assume,
Imagine just getting nailed by that.
That's a Lucas thing, by the way. That's
Really?
worth mentioning. Is that, and I don't know, but if you go back and you watch any of the documentary footage on American Graffiti, the sequences that he kept, the sequences that he kept in the movie were the ones where people made mistakes.
that's good.
That
Well,
he
because
would
it makes
do
it feel
over and
more
over until he made a
authentic.
mistake, and then he would say, "All right, good."
That's
right,
cool.
You're right, because it looks more real. If you're running like from a boulder, you're either going to be winded as hell, you know,
Absolutely.
and stumbling. Yeah, so that makes sense.
And
Totally.
I'm curious how stunts were probably not nearly as regulated back then. I mean, they probably were to a degree, obviously, but like I couldn't imagine. All right, so this is kind of interesting. The film was originally given an R rating because of the exploding head at the end.
Makes sense.
I mean, yeah, but I'm kind of surprised the other stuff didn't get. Anyways,
Yeah, I mean they
didn't want.
do a few headshots. Like it's not like
No,
they don't,
I just
like,
again,
kill
it is
people.
funny to think that there was not a PG-13. Like I didn't even realize.
I
that.
think I knew that, like as a fun fact. Like I
I feel like
somebody's
but,
tossed
like,
that at me,
it's
but
true.
I don't like.
So they didn't want it to be rated R, obviously. So they added layers of fire in front of his face to make it appear less
Oh,
graphic.
yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, I remember.
Okay, blah blah blah. The out-of-control airplane actually ran over Harrison Ford's knee, tearing a ligament in his left leg.
What's
He
up
has-
with him and leg injuries?
Yeah, because he got one on like Star Wars, didn't it? It got like
Yeah,
trapped
Force
in one of the
Awakens.
doors.
In the second one, he had to have back surgery.
Jesus Christ.
Oh,
you know what? I do remember hearing
He had
that.
him fly out. They did the surgery. He came back and he got back on the elephant.
Jesus
Jeez.
Christ. Luckily for him, the heat had turned the rubber's tire soft, so it did not crush the bone. Rather,
So just ran over him.
yeah.
It's like, oh shit!
rather than submit to the
Everyone stop!
Tunisian healthcare, Ford had his knee wrapped in ice and just carried on.
Dude, he was of that age, you know.
No, he's
Hardcore.
like, that's it. No,
Yeah.
like, put some ice on
Let's
it.
do it.
He's
We'll
a
figure it out.
carpenter.
No, yeah, and that does
Not a
show.
trained
You're right.
actor. He's not an O2.
And I don't know, no, but yeah, and it's like he's so. I feel like that makes him such a good actor for some reason. I don't know,
'Cause
like
he's not an
because he's
actor?
not. Yeah, because he
He's
didn't.
character.
Yeah,
Right,
he's
but
yeah.
very much. He's
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just so good. Okay, let's see here. George Lucas made what was at the time an unusual deal for this film. The studio financed the film's entire $18 million budget.
Paramount.
In exchange, Lucas would own over 40% of the film and collect almost half of the profits after the studios grossed a certain amount. It turned out to be a very lucrative deal for Lucas. Paramount executive Michael Eisner said that he felt the script for this film was the best he had ever read. Wow. That's kind of interesting.
and Eisner went on to be the CEO of the Walt Disney Company.
Yeah.
By the way,
Didn't he just step down pretty recently? I feel like he might.
yeah.
like 10, 15 years ago. But he was there for the heyday.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
thought it
been
was
there
even
for a
recent.
while.
yeah, he did
Yeah.
Little Mermaid, Aladdin. Eisner's a big deal.
Man, that's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because that was when Disney When was Disney doing bad? Like the 80s?
Yeah, the 80s.
Yeah,
all
when
the
they
way
kind of
up
had
until
that like
Little
straight-
Mermaid.
Like Black
Brought it back.
Cauldron era. What else came out in the 80s for Disney?
Rescuers. I mean, I think it's the 70s, but they were super dark. The 70s and the 80s, all like basically all animated movies for kids were it was
Incredibly
just
dark.
extremely dark
Yeah.
movies,
Jesus.
which is great. It's
Yeah, I
just
know.
what
It's
it is.
it's funny. I feel like all those kids grew up and now they want extremely dark movies that we get now. Like I feel like we even now Justice League's rated R. This cut like it's weird.
Hype.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that does it for us on this Rewind review. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a lot of fun discussing Indiana Jones. I cannot wait to come back and talk Temple of Doom. You can find this podcast wherever they're found. Just search Delco Nerd Network. You can find us on YouTube as well as Facebook. Just search our name on there. Our website is www.delconerdnetwork.com. You can email us delconerds@gmail.com. We also have a fun Discord. A lot of fun conversations going on there. Good times. Pat, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a lot of fun. I've been Trio for Gooch. We'll talk to you guys soon. We'll see you next time. Stay nerdy.